Here's how I gave up smoking the ganja. I used to love it so much. She was my best friend. I just felt like it wasn't really like anything hardcore, and I used to imagine myself literally until I grow old and I'm a granny and I'll be baking my grandchildren's space cakes and stuff. How different things have changed now, but I've become addicted to it. And someone's commented saying, you can't become addicted to weed, so don't say that. And you might not be able to get addicted to the actual substance, but you get addicted to the way that that substance makes you feel, because your brain releases certain chemicals when you have that substance, and then you're addicted to those chemicals that your body and your brain has released, and so you do become addicted to what that weed triggers, which is the internal chemistry. It numbed me from my emotions. It made me feel nice because it triggered the feel-good chemicals. Then what happens with any addiction is once your feel-good chemicals run out almost, because you've had the high, and when you start going low again, you then start feeling low because your body's not just creating the normal amount of feel-good chemicals. Your body actually stops creating the normal amount of feel-good chemicals because it's getting it from the substance, which was the weed. So for me, I needed that weed again in order for my brain to have that feel-good chemical again, because it basically changes and alters the chemistry of your brain. And so then if I didn't have some, I was a B-I-T-C-H. I was a B-I-T-C-H. So I couldn't be sober. And that's it. This is the thing. It's literally like I just wasn't ever sober. So that is not good. I believe that you can use plant medicines as a medicine, doing it in ceremony maybe once a month when you want to have a spiritual experience. But for me, it was just that I was never sober. I couldn't be sober. And if I was, it was just because I'd ran out and I was waiting for some more, anxiously twiddly with my fingers, and I just could not have it. So once I met my spiritual teacher, he was like, "You're addicted." I was like, yeah, I think you're right. So I needed to get healthy and rebalance my chemistry, because spiritual enlightenment is all about internal balance, and that addiction was actually knocking me out of balance. So that's why I gave up. That's the whole hoo-ha about the whole shebang. This is how I gave up. So the first thing that I did to try and cut down was I bought something called mugwort. It's like a legal herb, and people mix it with tobacco or they just smoke it on its own, and it's kind of like a mellow high, so it's not as strong as weed, but it was a really nice substitute because it tasted nice and sweet still, and it was something to smoke, but it was like much more of a mellow high, but it still gave me that little feel-good feeling. Mugwort's meant to be good for lucid dreaming. You can drink it as a tea, you can put it under your pillow in a little bag, but the truth is I wanted to just get off smoking for good, so mugwort was like a good alternative while I was trying to cut down. And I had to cut down because I'd moved home with my parents and they didn't know I smoked, so it was like I had to just take the opportunity that I could to have a little spliff here or there, and in between, like, I just had to have the mugwort and stuff. So that was my first step. The second step then was that I did meet my spiritual teacher, and he was saying, look, you need to give it up completely just to rebalance yourself, and wanted to try spiritual enlightenment. And he just said, try spiritual enlightenment and then go back to your old life after, if it's not for you or it wasn't what you wanted or what you thought. So I was happy to just give it up because I felt like maybe one day I would get back to it. But more than that, since my soul had become aware of spiritual enlightenment, that was all that I really wanted. That was all that I was striving for. So that was step number one. The second thing that I did, and this helped me with my smoking cigarettes as well, is he told me this cure that triggers ketosis within the body in an hour. And he gave me this recipe with coconut. You basically just eat this recipe, and then in an hour your body has gone into ketosis. And ketosis is a state you get into when you've fasted for 2.5 to 3 days. So naturally, ketosis, your body goes into it, and so it's a natural process, and it basically resets the chemistry of your brain. So when I was saying before that your brain stops making as much feel-good chemicals because it's relying on the external source, what that does is it sets it back to normal. So your brain's making the normal amount again, which means you don't need or withdraw or crave from those things you're addicted to because your brain's making it again. So it turns off all addiction, so long as you don't then have a smoke again or whatever you were addicted to again, because when you do have that, you then tip your brain chemistry out of balance again, so then you're back to square one. But you can do the ketosis as many times as you want, so if you do fall off the path, you can just do keto again, it corrects the chemistry of your brain again, and then you're back addiction free. So I wasn't sure what this was going to be like. I hadn't heard of it at all and I'd never tried it, and I was a bit scared, like what's it going to feel like, what's it going to do to me, and is it natural and things like that. But I just thought I would try it. So I tried this recipe, and then like half an hour to an hour later, I just like felt really calm, like chilled out, and like mentally calm, emotionally calm. I felt really centered and aligned. And I was like, wow, I feel so chilled. And then like a few hours later, when I would have normally had like a cigarette, I was like, that is so strange. I just don't even need or want a cigarette. Like, I just didn't have the cravings or the anger or anything, the withdrawals that would usually come from needing my smoke. So I was like, what? And then what I did was I was like, went to go and see my friend, and I thought I might just have one, because it was out of a habit where whenever I'd leave the house I would have one because I wasn't allowed to smoke at home. So because I was used to that habit, when I went out I thought, oh, should I just have one while I've got this opportunity? But then I just like, well, I don't need one. Like, so it's like weird, because when you want to give up, you need to want to give up. And so you do the ketosis, and you know, it's because you want to give up. But if you like don't want to give up, then it's possible that when that random thought comes back in your head to think, should I just have one, then you might just, you know, have one. Because you can even get demons or friends and family who believe you still smoke or want you to still smoke, and so their thoughts and their desires and their demons can actually like come into you, and they put the thought in your head that you want to smoke even though you don't. So you need to almost be aware that if the thought comes up or the habit is there, just you then say no, because you don't need to. The physical addiction is the hardest part to overcome, you know, the anger, the cravings, the withdrawal. So since that's turned off, it's so easy to just say no to a random passing thought. What I also did was I actually distanced myself then from everyone I knew who smoked weed, because I knew that if I was there smelling it and, you know, they were all smoking it around me, I'd probably just want some, because I was just so used to smoking it. And it was also because I liked escaping my emotions. And of course, when you go sober, everything you've been running away from does turn up knocking at the door. But you really need to answer the door and beat the shit out of all those things or, you know, give them love and transmute them. Because if you don't face your ego and face off with your demons and your shadows and overcome them, they will eventually break down that door and burgle your house, beat you up. They will just ruin your life. So you need to face your own crap, your own baggage. And so it's all a whole journey really, going sober, because you do that spiritual work, but better now than never, because the world is changing and the ascension is happening, and people need to be doing that work like now, because you want to ascend with everyone, and you know, you want it to be as easy as it can for you. And even if you don't want to do the work, you might just then have to come back again and live another life for all the lessons you never faced and all the baggage you never let go of. It might just drag you back here, and you might attract all that same stuff again until you do heal it. So the trigger that triggered ketosis in an hour for me, it's in a book called You Are the Cure, but there's actually a book that tells you how to trigger ketosis within 5 minutes instead, which you might prefer just because it's easier. Now this one is done by magic, so you trigger it through magic, either through spells, mudras, holding certain crystals, holding certain metals, holding certain woods, and it does it in 5 minutes. Or the other one, You Are the Cure book, that is using plant medicines, and that it takes an hour. So it depends on what you would prefer to do, but you don't need to believe in the magic spells for them to work. It still works, but because ketosis, it's quite subtle, you might feel it if you're energetically sensitive or you're aware of yourself. You know, if you sit down and really just chill with it while it's happening, you go, wow, I feel different, I've sensed this, I've sensed that. The most important thing is to be aware of yourself and your energy. So when you do it, kind of like sit there and go, right, what's my body feeling like? Get used to like how the shift feels, so you know that you've actually got in. If you're not really aware of your body, you might just be going, didn't really do anything, or you know, you didn't really feel it because you just weren't paying attention. So pay attention and see how it feels and see what you experience. The spell book is called Matrix Magic by Leo. The other one is You Are the Cure, and they are both in the link in my profile, so feel free to enjoy. Good luck, you'll do awesome, I know you will.